Riverside, California. A small city where the nights glowed with neon lights and the mornings began with steaming cups of coffee in local diners. Children rode bicycles in quiet neighborhoods, the sound of laughter echoing through the streets. On the surface, everything looked peaceful. But beneath that calm was a story, one built on love, betrayal, and revenge. Michael Harris, 28 years old, a hardworking but poor mechanic. Ethan Cooper, 30 years old, a wealthy, arrogant businessman who controlled half the city. Emily Walker, 27 years old, Michael's childhood friend and love. Sheriff Collins, 60 years old, an old but sharp sheriff who had seen it all. Michael worked late nights in his small garage, fixing broken-down cars. His hands were always covered in grease, his shirt stained with sweat, but his eyes carried dreams bigger than his life. The only light in his difficult world was Emily. She was the one who gave him hope, who stitched his broken pieces together every time life pulled him apart. Michael and Emily's wedding was set. The townspeople were excited. But not everyone celebrated. Ethan Cooper had everything: money, power, respect. Everything but Emily. His ego couldn't handle the fact that Emily had chosen a poor mechanic over him. For Ethan, this wasn't love anymore. It was obsession. 2 weeks before the wedding, Michael closed his garage late one night and walked home. The streets were quiet, the sound of crickets filling the air. Suddenly, headlights flashed, and a group of men jumped out of a black SUV. They attacked Michael. Brutally. He fought back, but he was outnumbered. Punch after punch, kick after kick, until he collapsed. They dragged him to the edge of a silent lake and left him there, bleeding, lifeless. The next morning, Ethan spread rumors. Michael was a criminal, caught in something illegal, and had run away to escape the law. Emily's world shattered. She cried for days, but no one listened. People whispered behind her back. And soon, Ethan pressured her into marrying him. But fate had a different plan. Michael didn't die that night. Barely clinging to life, he was found by a retired war veteran, John Miller, who lived in the next town. John treated his wounds, gave him shelter, and more importantly, taught him how to fight back. "You want justice?" John told him one night, looking into his bruised eyes. "Then don't just pull the trigger. Break him first. Break his empire, his pride, and then his body." Michael listened. The next 2 years were brutal. By day, he worked odd jobs. By night, he trained. Guns, knives, strategy, endurance. He studied people, learned how to manipulate the system, and prepared for one thing only: revenge. And then, one stormy night, Michael Harris returned to Riverside. But this time, he wasn't the same man who had been beaten and left for dead. Michael's first move was Ethan's business. Ethan owned a massive transportation company. Michael quietly infiltrated, planting fake deals, sabotaging shipments. Within months, Ethan lost millions. His empire started to crack, and investors began to doubt him. Ethan raged in his office, smashing glasses, screaming at his men. But he couldn't figure out who was behind it. Michael then turned Ethan's most loyal lieutenant, Jason, against him. Jason had worked for Ethan for years but secretly hated him. Ethan's arrogance, his cruelty, his lack of loyalty, Jason had swallowed it all in silence. When Michael approached him, Jason didn't hesitate. He began feeding Michael every detail: business meetings, shipments, Ethan's weaknesses. But revenge wasn't just about money. Michael wanted Ethan to feel fear, the same helpless fear he had felt the night he was left to die. So he began leaving messages. A red mark painted on Ethan's expensive car. Anonymous letters on his desk with the words, "I'm still alive." Ethan started losing sleep. His hands shook when he poured whiskey. His men began to whisper, "Was it a ghost? A past enemy?" One afternoon, Michael ran into Emily on the street. She froze, staring at him as if she had seen a ghost. "Michael, you are alive," her voice trembled, tears filling her eyes. Michael looked at her with eyes hardened by pain. "I came back, Emily. But not for love. I came back for Ethan." Emily sobbed. "He'll kill you. He's powerful, more than you know." Michael's lips curled into a cold smile. "This time, Emily, he'll try. And I'll finish it." The night of the annual Riverside Town Festival arrived. Fireworks filled the sky. Families gathered in the park. Ethan stood on the stage, ready to deliver his grand speech, showing off his wealth and influence. But Michael had already moved his final piece. Sheriff Collins and the mayor received a USB filled with evidence, Ethan's illegal deals, his crimes, his involvement in murders. As Ethan smiled on stage, the giant screen behind him flickered. And then, his secrets exploded onto the screen. Bank records. Photos. Video evidence. The crowd gasped. Murmurs turned into shouts. Ethan's empire crumbled before his eyes. Panicking, he stormed off the stage, pushing through the crowd. Michael followed him. Ethan ran into an abandoned warehouse, his breath heavy, his hands trembling. Michael stepped in after him, calm, steady, fearless. Ethan pulled out a pistol, pointing it at Michael. "You. I should have killed you that night." Michael took a step closer. His voice was low, cold. "You tried. But death wasn't calling me, Ethan. It was calling you." The fight was brutal. Ethan fired, but Michael dodged, throwing him against steel beams. Punches echoed in the empty warehouse. The pistol slid across the floor. Michael pinned Ethan down just as Sheriff Collins and his deputies stormed in. Guns raised, they shouted for Ethan to surrender. And finally, the man who once thought he owned the city was dragged away in handcuffs, his empire turned to dust. Michael stood still, bloodied, exhausted, but alive. Emily rushed to him, tears streaming, and wrapped her arms around him. "It's over, Michael," she whispered. Michael shook his head softly, staring into the night. "No, Emily. It's just beginning. Now it's time to live." For the first time, Riverside felt peace. Fear no longer ruled its streets. Ethan Cooper's name was erased. And Michael Harris, the man who came back from the dead, became the living symbol of justice.